Hey everyone, I'm back from Chicago, got home yesterday morning at 11:30, and then I slept all day, so I haven't been able to upload a video since the last one back at the start of my trip. I also didn't want to upload a new video because I wanted to make this one special, and to do that I needed a mouse, which I didn't have on my laptop that I had with me on my trip. So I waited until I got home. So now I'm going to talk to you about the Field Museum. It's hard to describe the Field Museum. It was something that I've been wanting to go see for a very long time now. I'll get to why I wanted to see the Field Museum so badly a little later, but it's magnificent, it's huge, it's gargantuan. There is no amount of words that can describe how big this place is. It's big. It's really big, and there is so much in it, and at the same time there is not a lot. Okay, don't get me wrong. When I say that there isn't a lot of stuff in there, I'm not actually saying there isn't a lot of stuff in there. There is a lot of stuff in there. If you think about how much there is in the world in animals and natural history and human history and human anything for that matter, and then you look at the Field Museum and the collection that they have on display for us to actually see, then you start to understand that there really isn't a lot in there. You really are put into perspective of how much there is actually in the world when you see what they have there on display. My favorite part of the whole museum was the dioramas of all the animals. I study at McGill in environmental biology with a specialization in wildlife, so it's pretty self-explanatory why that was my favorite part. I'm an animal lover. Now's the time to explain to you why going to the Field Museum was so important for me. 3 years ago, I started my bachelor's. Up until that point, getting to university was my life plan. After that, I had no plan. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my bachelor's, what I could do with my bachelor's. So my first semester there, I was enjoying my classes, I was having a lot of fun, meeting new friends, learning a bunch of new stuff, and I was asking my teachers what there was for jobs after my bachelor's was over. And most of them talked about research and governmental work. And research and governmental work? Isn't that self-explanatory? So I asked them, what does that mean? And most of them replied with, it depends. That was a little disconcerting. So at that point, I was starting to panic. If there wasn't going to be a job for me after, then what was I doing in this program to begin with? I was freaking out. This was also about the same time that Hank Green was on his way to see Emily Grassley for the first time. So being a stressed out student, I decided to do what most students do. Ignore their uncertain future. I went onto YouTube, and that's where I saw Hank's video on thoughts from dead animals. And there was Emily, and there was her work. And after watching that video, there was a huge opening of possibilities for me. I did not know that that whole natural history museum pathway was an actual pathway. It was relieving to see that I wasn't just going to go onto this road of research and governmental work, that I had an actual decision that I can choose from multiple things. The start of my second semester, I decided I had to get busy and actually try out to see if I enjoyed museum collection or things that were involved with museums. My first week back at school after winter break, one of my TAs in my lab classes announced that there was a master's student in her supervisor's lab that needed some volunteers. He was studying native bees from Quebec, and he needed volunteers to help him pin them. I got his email and emailed him that same day, and I think I was in the lab a day later helping him. And I did that for a whole year, and I learned how to pin insects, how to morphologically identify bees, how to use identification keys from him. I learned so much, and I also learned that I really enjoyed collections and organization, everything that involved like identifying them. I knew that that was the way I was wanting to go. The next step for me was to actually see if I enjoyed research that was involved with museum collections. In my fourth semester, I was actually missing some credits to be considered a full-time student, so to fill up those extra credits, I decided to take a research project with one of my teachers. I also decided that this project would have to involve a museum collection. So I went to the professor who runs the Lyman Entomology Museum at McGill and asked him if I could do a research project with him. He said yes, and the next thing I know, I am doing research on body size reduction in flies from the Arctic. It was amazing. I loved the research, I loved the work, I loved being independent. And I knew right then and there that museum research was probably something that I was definitely most interested in. After my fourth semester during the summer, I continued working at the Lyman, and I did more curation and organization of the collection of flies within the Lyman. At the end of the semester, I received an email from my advisor from school, and she said I was eligible to start an honors project the following fall on anything that I wanted. So I went back to my teacher who I was doing the research project for and asked him if he would supervise me for my honors, and he said yes. So now I'm doing a taxonomic revision on a genus of flies in the limen. And all of this was possible because the brain scoop came about and showed me that there was a huge other section of natural history that I wasn't being taught in school, and that there was another place that I could go find work, albeit it'll be very difficult to get in and find a museum and a position in a museum, but I know that there is somewhere that I can go that I will definitely love working there. So I have to say thank you to Hank Green and Emily Grassley, and I hopefully will manage to get into a museum one day in the future. I really do hope so. I love what I'm doing already, and I'm sure I'll love what I do in the future as well. And I'm only doing my bachelor's, so there's still a lot of time for me. Also, on a last note, I did get to see Emily Grassley on my visit to the Field Museum. I didn't get to talk to her because I had my mouth full of grilled cheese sandwich. That would not have been good. Zoe and I had just sat down for lunch, and I was taking a bite of grilled cheese when I looked up, and there she was, passing by. I wasn't thinking, so I just waved at her. And then she did a double take and actually waved back and said hi. It was really cool because Emily Grassley is part of the reason why I found my love for museums. So thank you a lot. Thank you for saying hello and waving at me. And thank you for all the work you've done on the Brain Scoop, because I don't think I would have ever found my love for natural history museums if the Brain Scoop wasn't actually a thing. You know, endings are so hard.